I still remember the day everything broke. Not the day my husband died. Not the day my daughter got married. No. The day I opened the door to my own apartment and saw my daughter on her knees in front of her father-in-law. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Eudora, and if there is one thing I always loved, it was silence. Silence after a long day of work. Silence after visitors finally left. Silence in my small kitchen with only the sound of boiling water and my own breathing. Silence was my refuge. My comfort. But I didn't know that the same silence I loved so much would one day almost destroy the people I loved the most. My daughter's name is Amora. She has always been the light of my life. When her father passed away, it was just the two of us. I worked, she studied. I cooked, she washed plates. We laughed, we cried, we survived. We didn't have much, but we had peace. And sometimes, peace feels richer than money. When Amora finished university, she got a good job in the city. I was so proud of her. She was smart, respectful, and beautiful. Men started coming to greet me in the name of friendship, prayer meetings, and fellowship. I knew what they wanted. I smiled, I watched, I waited. Then one day, a young man came with his mother and father. His name was Chaik. He was polite, well-spoken, and clearly in love with my daughter. His mother was warm and bubbly, the kind of woman that always had a story to tell. His father, Mr. Okoro, was quiet. Very quiet. His silence did not feel like mine. Mine was peaceful. His felt heavy. He sat in my living room that first day, legs crossed, hands on his walking stick, eyes scanning everything. "Madam Eudora," he finally said, "you raised your daughter well. She will make a good wife." I smiled and thanked him, but something in my chest tightened for a second. I brushed it aside. Maybe I was just nervous. Maybe I had lived alone too long. Maybe I was simply afraid of letting my daughter go. The introduction went well. The families agreed. The dates were set. And within months, Amora and Chaik were married. The wedding was beautiful. Music, dancing, food, laughter, bright clothes, smiling aunties with jewel tied too high, uncles giving advice nobody asked for. I watched my daughter in her wedding dress and felt my heart swell so much I thought my chest would burst. When the ceremony ended, people hugged me and whispered, "You did well, Eudora. Your daughter is blessed. Chaik is a good man. You can rest now." But a mother's heart never really rests. Still, I was happy. Truly happy. They moved into a nice apartment not too far from mine. We weren't in the same building, but we were in the same part of town. I told myself I would not interfere in their marriage. I would only visit when invited. I would be the kind of mother-in-law that stays in her lane. I had seen too many mothers cause problems in their children's marriages. I promised myself I would never be one of them. And for a while, everything seemed fine. Amora would come over on weekends. Sometimes alone, sometimes with Chaik. We would cook, talk, gossip a little, and then she'd go back to her home. Months later, she got pregnant. When she told me, I cried tears of joy. I prayed over her belly. I thanked God every night. "It will be a boy," Chaik's mother said confidently. "It will be a girl," I answered back with a smile. In the end, heaven gave us a boy. We named him Kamsi. After the baby was born, things started to change, just a little at first. Chaik's job became very demanding. He worked long hours, sometimes late into the night. His company had a project outside the city, then in another state, then even out of the country sometimes. His parents lived in another town, but his father, Mr. Okoro, began visiting them more often to help. At first, I was glad. Good, I thought. Another elder in the house. Someone to support them, especially after I took a part-time job caring for a small cabin outside the city on weekends. The owner of the cabin traveled a lot. He paid me to go there some weekends to open it for workers, air it out, check things, and lock it in the evening. It was quiet work. The kind of silence I loved. So our routine became simple. On some weekends, I would go to the cabin. Chaik would sometimes be on a work trip. Amora stayed home with the baby. And occasionally, her father-in-law, Mr. Okoro, stayed with them to help. I didn't see anything wrong with it at first. One evening, I was in my kitchen stirring a pot of stew when Amora's voice came through the phone, lower than usual. "Mama, are you busy?" "A little," I said. "But for you, I'm never too busy." "What is it?" She was quiet for a moment. I heard her breathe. "It's Papa Okoro," she finally said, her voice small. My hand froze over the pot. "What about him?" I asked carefully. He is just too strict," she said quickly. "He complains about everything. How I cook. How I clean. How I feed Kamsi. He says I don't behave like a proper wife. Sometimes he enters the kitchen and stands too close." She hesitated. "He stares too much. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it." I felt something uncomfortable move through my chest again. "Has he touched you?" I asked directly. "No," she said quickly. "Not like that. He just says things. Looks at me in a way that makes my skin crawl. But I don't want to cause trouble, Mama. Chaik respects his father a lot. I don't want him to think I'm being disrespectful." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Amora," I said softly, "never ignore that feeling in your body. When something feels wrong, it often is wrong." She was quiet. "Mama, please, don't say anything yet," she whispered. "Maybe it's just my mind. Maybe I'm too sensitive." Silence again. And this time, I chose to respect it. "All right," I said at last. "But if anything else happens, Amora, you tell me immediately. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Mama," she said. We ended the call. That night, I couldn't sleep. That was the first time I realized. Sometimes silence is not peace. Sometimes silence is fear wearing a quiet mask. A few weeks later, I went to visit them unannounced. The door was locked, but I could hear voices inside. I knocked and waited. When Amora opened the door, her face looked tired. Her eyes were puffy, like she'd been crying. But she smiled quickly, too quickly. "Mama, you didn't tell me you were coming." "I wanted to surprise you," I said, watching her carefully. "Is everything all right?" Yes, she said, stepping aside. "Come in." I greeted Kamsi, who was playing on the floor, and then Chaik came out from the bedroom buttoning his shirt. "Mama, good evening," he said, hugging me. "You should have called. So you can hide what is happening?" I wanted to ask. But I didn't. Instead I smiled and asked about work, about the baby, about everything except what I really wanted to ask. Then I noticed it. A sound in the corridor. A chair scraping. I turned and saw him at the end of the hallway. Mr. Okoro. He hadn't been in the living room when I entered. He must have heard my voice and come out from one of the rooms. He walked toward me slowly, leaning on his stick, a small smile on his lips. "Eudora," he said, "you are welcome." I forced a smile. "Good evening, sir." We exchanged greetings, but while everyone talked, I watched him. The way his eyes slid over Amora's body when she walked past. The way he cleared his throat when she bent to pick up Kamsi. The way he commented, "This gown is too tight for a married woman," yet his eyes did not leave her waist. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That night, when I got home, I sat on my bed and whispered to myself. I should have said something. I should have taken her seriously. But again, I stayed silent. I didn't want to accuse an elder without proof. I didn't want to be that mother who spoils her daughter's marriage. I told myself I was respecting boundaries. But deep down, I knew I was just afraid. Now let me take you to that day. The day everything came crashing down. It was a Saturday. I had gone to the cabin very early in the morning. I was supposed to spend the day there, then return home in the evening. I took my small bag, my phone, and the cabin keys. At least, I thought I took the keys. When I reached the cabin, I searched my bag. No keys. I checked my pockets. Nothing. I closed my eyes in frustration. At my age, forgetting isn't a joke. "It must be at home," I muttered. So I called the owner and told him I'd be late. Then I got back into the bus and headed home. I was irritated, tired, sweaty. I climbed the stairs to my apartment and opened the door. The moment I stepped inside, my whole body went cold. The apartment was supposed to be empty. Amora wasn't there. She was at her own place. Chaik too. Or so I thought. But inside my living room, my daughter was on her knees. She was facing away from me, shoulders shaking, hair messy. In front of her stood Mr. Okoro. He was holding her by the hair with one hand, his other hand raised as if he had just dragged her or was about to hit her. His voice was low but cruel. No, he was saying. Today, I'm going to teach you how a woman should behave in her husband's house. You think you're equal to my son? You think you can talk back to me? For a moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. My own daughter, in my own house, on her knees, with a man who should have protected her towering over her like a predator. Amora saw me first. Her eyes widened. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Mema," she whispered, her voice breaking. Time snapped back. "What is going on here?" I shouted, my voice shaking the walls. I dropped my bag and rushed forward. I grabbed his arm and pulled him away from her with a strength I didn't know I still had. "Leave her," I yelled. "Leave my daughter alone." He stumbled back, surprised. "What's wrong with you, woman?" he barked. "I am correcting her. This girl has no respect. She is a wife, not a queen." Amora crawled backward, breathing hard, holding her scalp where he had gripped her hair. I knelt beside her. "Did he touch you?" I whispered urgently. "Tell me the truth now." Her lips trembled. "Mama, he's been coming here when Chaik is at work," she choked. "He always has something to say about how I dress, how I talk. He says a woman belongs under a man's feet. Today he followed me here after I came to drop Kamsi with you. I thought you had already left for the cabin. He locked the door. He said I talk too boldly, that I must kneel and listen. When I refused, he dragged my hair. My vision blurred with rage. I turned slowly to face him. "You followed my daughter here?" I asked quietly. "To my house? Without my permission? Without her husband present?" He lifted his chin, defiant. "What is your problem, Eudora?" he said loudly. "You women of nowadays spoil your daughters. You teach them to disobey their husbands. I will not let my son's home scatter. If she cannot listen to her elders, then she will learn by force." "Oh, so this is discipline?" I asked, my voice cold. "Is that what you call it?" "Yes," he snapped. "She dresses anyhow." Answering back. "Leaving the house when she wants. Today she followed me here instead of staying in her home." "That's a lie." Amora cried. "I told you, I was only dropping Kamsi with Mama, then going back." He hissed and raised his hand as if to point at her. "Shut up," he shouted. "You see. She has no respect." I stepped between them again. "If you raise your hand one more time in my house, Okoro," I said slowly, "I will forget you are older than me." He stared at me, breathing hard. "You dare talk to me like that," he growled. "After all I've done? I helped your daughter when your husband died. I gave her money, advice, support. And in return, you think you can own her?" I asked. "You think you can break her like a chair and fix her how you want?" Silence. For the first time since I walked in, there was silence again. But this silence was different. Heavy. Broken. Amora wiped her face with the back of her hand. She was still on the floor. I helped her up slowly and guided her to the sofa. "My daughter will not kneel before you again," I said firmly. "Not in my house. Not in hers." His eyes flashed with anger. "You will regret this, Eudora," he spat. "You are poisoning her mind. Women like you are the reason marriages fail. I will tell my son everything. He will choose his father over you ungrateful people." Then he picked up his cap from the center table, straightened his shirt, and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. The moment he left, Amora broke. She sobbed uncontrollably, her body shaking as if all the fear in her bones was pouring out at once. I held her. I stroked her hair where he had pulled it. I whispered, "It's over. He's gone. You're safe now." But in my heart, I knew it was not over. This was only the beginning. When she calmed a little, I asked her again, softly. Has he ever tried to touch you in any other way? Tell me everything now. Don't hide anything. She swallowed. He hasn't forced himself on me, she said slowly. But sometimes, when Chaik isn't home, he stays too close. He says a real wife must learn to please her man. He makes comments. Looks. Once he touched my shoulder and let his hand stay too long. I always push him away and pretend I didn't hear. Her voice shook. I didn't want to break the family, Mama. I thought I could manage it. Manage? I repeated, my heart breaking. You thought you could manage this alone? With a man like that? Tears burned my eyes. This is my fault, I whispered. You told me you were uncomfortable. And I stayed silent. I should have spoken. I should have shouted. I should have dragged you out of that house the first time you said something felt wrong. She shook her head weakly. Mama, please don't blame yourself, she said. I'm the one who kept quiet. We sat there together, both of us drowning in different kinds of guilt. Then my phone vibrated. It was Chaik. I picked up. Good afternoon, Mama, he said. Is Amora with you? My father just called me shouting that you and my wife disrespected him. What is going on? I took a deep breath. Chaik, I said calmly, I need you to come to my house now. Not later. Not tomorrow. Now. And come alone. He hesitated. Mama, I'm still at work. Can't this W? Chaik, I cut in, if you respect me at all, come. Now. Something in my voice must have scared him, because he agreed. I'll be there in 30 minutes, he said. Those 30 minutes felt like 3 hours. Amora and I didn't talk much. I gave her water. She washed her face. I tied her hair with a scarf because the back of her head was red and sore. When we heard the knock, both our hearts jumped. I opened the door. Chaik stood there, still in his office clothes, tie loose, worry written all over his face. Mama, what hap? He stopped when he saw Amora's eyes, still swollen. What's wrong? He asked quickly, walking toward her. Amora, what happened? She looked at him, then at me. I sat down opposite them. Chaik, I said, I'm going to say some things that will be painful. But you need to listen. And you need to listen like a man, not just like a son. He frowned, confused. Mama, where is my father? He asked. He left, I replied. After dragging your wife by the hair and forcing her to kneel in front of him. Chaik's face hardened. That's not possible, he said immediately. My father would never. Sit down, I interrupted. For once in your life, sit and listen before you defend anyone. He stared at me, shocked. I had never raised my voice at him before. Never spoken to him like that. Slowly, he Saturday. Your father has been coming here when you're not around, I continued. He has been telling your wife that she doesn't behave like a real woman. He has been following her movements. Today, he followed her to my apartment. He locked the door and forced her to kneel. He grabbed her by the hair and told her he would teach her how to behave in your home. Chaik shook his head, eyes wide. No, he whispered. No, Mama, that can't be right. My father is strict, but he would never. Look at your wife's scalp, I snapped. Look at her eyes. Do you think she's acting? He turned slowly toward Amora. She lifted the scarf. The back of her head was red and irritated where his father had yanked her hair. Chaik's shoulders sank. Why didn't you tell me? He asked her, his voice breaking. Amora, why? Her lips trembled. Because every time I tried to complain about him, she said quietly, you said, he's old, ignore him. He's just traditional. Don't disrespect my father. I didn't want you to think I was turning you against him. Silence. He dropped his head into his hands. I watched them both and felt a strange mix of anger and pity. I had known men like his father all my life. Men who hide behind tradition, respect, and culture to control and harm women. Chaik, I said softly, this is the moment that will define you. Not your wedding day. Not the baby's naming ceremony. This moment. Right now. When your wife is hurt and your father is wrong. You cannot sit on the fence anymore. He lifted his head slowly. His eyes were wet. What do you want me to do, Mama? He whispered. I looked at him, then at Amora. This is not about what I want, I said. It's about what your wife needs, and what is right. Amora wiped her cheeks. I want him out of our lives, she said quietly, but firmly. If he cannot respect me as your wife, he has no right to be in our home. I'm tired of being afraid in my own house, Chaik. Chaik swallowed. That's my father, he said weakly. And I am your wife, she replied. Or does that only matter when I'm cooking and lying beside you at night? He flinched at her words. I stayed silent. This was now their fight, their decision. After a long moment, Chaik stood up. I need to talk to him, he said. Not alone, I replied immediately. If you meet him alone, he will twist your mind. We will all meet. You, me, Amora, him, and your mother. This will not be a secret discussion that disappears. He nodded slowly. All right, he said. Tonight. At their house. That evening, we went together. My heart pounded all the way there, but my mind was clear. I had replayed the scene in my living room over and over. Every word, every movement, every tear. When we entered their house, Chaik's mother greeted us with her usual warmth, but I could see worry in her eyes. She already knew something had happened. Men like Okoro are never quiet when they feel disrespected. He was sitting in the living room, arms crossed, face hard. So, he said, you have come. Yes, I answered. We have come. Because this matter will not be swept under any carpet. Chaik's mother glanced between us nervously. What is going on? She asked. Okoro has been shouting since morning. Ask your husband, I said calmly. We are all here now. Chaik stood in the center of the room, his hands shaking slightly. Papa, he began, did you follow Amora to Mama Eudora's house today? His father scoffed. So that is what this is about, he said. Yes, I followed her. She disrespects me. She storms out of the house like a madwoman. Someone has to teach her. Did you drag her by the hair? Chaik asked, voice tight. I held her, he snapped. She refused to kneel. In my son's home, a wife must kneel when her elders speak. She was in my home, I cut in. Not yours. Not your son's. He ignored me. She is rude. She refuses to submit. Is this the wife you wanted? He shouted at Chaik. Chaik's mother clutched her wrapper, tears in her eyes. Okoro, is this true? She whispered. You pulled her hair. You forced her to kneel. He turned on her angrily. You women are all the same, he barked. You think you can control everything. This is why marriages fail. No respect. No fear. Fear. I repeated slowly. You think fear is the same thing as respect. He glared at me. You have spoiled that girl, he said. You taught her to talk like a man. Now you want to turn my son against me. I will not allow it. Chaik took a deep breath. Papa, he said quietly, you already did. Everyone froze. What did you say? His father asked. Chaik's eyes filled with tears, but his jaw was firm. You already turned me against you, he said. The day you put your hands on my wife. The day you made her feel unsafe. The day you forgot that she is a human being before she is a wife. His father stared at him in disbelief. I am your father, he growled. Without me, you would not be standing here. And without my wife, Chaik replied, voice steady, there would be no peace in my home. I honor you, Papa. But I will not sacrifice her to prove it. Silence. A different kind of silence this time. Heavy. Final. Chaik inhaled deeply. Papa, he said, from today, please do not come to our house again. Not until you can respect my wife and apologize for what you did. His mother gasped. Chaik, she exclaimed. You can't talk to your father like that. He turned to her gently. Mama, I love him, he said softly. But I will not let his wrong destroy my home. Okoro's face twisted with rage and hurt. You are choosing her over me, he said slowly. Chaik nodded. I am choosing what is right, he said. Okoro grabbed his stick, stood up, and pointed it at us. All of you will regret this, he spat. One day you will remember that I warned you. Wives come and go. Blood is forever. He walked out of the room and slammed his bedroom door. Chaik's mother sat down slowly, covering her face with her hands. She began to cry quietly. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know he had become like this. I sat beside her and took her hand. Pain changes people, I said softly. But sometimes, evil uses that pain as an excuse. After that night, things were not perfect. Hurt doesn't disappear like smoke. It lingers. Chaik struggled with guilt. Amora battled with fear and shame. I wrestled with my own regret. For a while, I blamed myself. I replayed every moment I stayed silent. Every time I brushed aside my instincts. Every time I told myself not to interfere. But something else slowly grew in that space. Not anger. Not bitterness. Boundaries. We learned to speak more openly. Amora no longer smiled to make everyone comfortable when she was unhappy. Chaik no longer used tradition as a shield to avoid difficult conversations. I no longer used silence as a blanket to cover my fear. Months later, one quiet afternoon, Amora sat across from me at my kitchen table. Kamsi was napping in the bedroom. Mama, she said, stirring her tea, do you think I was wrong to keep quiet for so long? I looked at her face, the same face I had watched grow from baby to girl to woman, and shook my head slowly. We all learn at different times, I said. But promise me something, Amora. She leaned forward. Next time your spirit tells you something is wrong, I continued, do not wait for it to become a storm. Speak. Even if your voice shakes. Sometimes speaking is the only way to protect yourself. A small, sad smile touched her lips. I promise, Mama, she said. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. And I promise, I added, that I will never again love silence more than I love the truth. If you listened all the way to the end of this story, thank you. If this reminded you of something you've seen, or lived through, you are not alone. If you liked this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what you learned. Your support helps us keep telling stories about real people, hard choices, and the courage it takes to finally say, enough. Thank you for listening.